how it is. And we do thank God because at least we can do this on Zoom. With me in studio, I have a very interesting guest, and she's joining us. She'll tell us a little bit about herself because she's an amazing woman. She's gone through a lot, but she's come out victorious, and she's now able to speak to other people and to help them overcome the challenges that they're dealing with. Today's topic is gender-based violence, and I want to give her a chance to introduce herself. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much, Anne. My name is Ayanda Pakati. I am based in the UK. And yes, I've gone through a lot, so we're going to share a lot. I'm very excited. But I work with an organization called the Alexander Kanya Group. And at the moment, we are here in Kenya establishing centers. Basically, what we do is that we change the world through inspired solutions. So we bring insight, we bring knowledge about national issues in every area. Um, on the journey, God has really given us great initiatives to bring in every single area of influence. And what we have done is that God helped us to um, help others overcome past traumas. So we've created this program or this process where people can come and they can get this healing. They can come into a process of getting over the things that they have gone through. And God has given us many solutions for that because you find that with traumatic experiences, it's very difficult for you to get through, you know. And so here we're here setting up those projects, um, and we're hoping to really touch people from Kenya and really hear their stories because we have been through this. I've been through this as well. So yeah, so thank you for having me, TBS TV.
Excellent. We are really, really happy that you're able to join us. And it's also interesting that you are, a person of the world because you were born in Zambia, you studied in the UK, you're now setting up an organization in Kenya. So I think you also like to travel.
Yes, I love to travel. I that is my if I could live in different countries every month, I would do it. But I'm called to be a missionary as well, so it's part of my thing. I love to travel. I love different cultures. This is my third time to Kenya. So I really love the nation of Kenya because people are very friendly. I love the culture. I've been learning Swahili, so yeah, it's really nice to be here.
So there's certain challenges that we're facing in Kenya right now that are very concerning. And one of them is gender-based violence. Recently, there have been a huge increase in the number of violent cases that have come up. You find a young man wanting to date a young lady, and when she says no, he becomes violent. You find a young lady is maybe having a dispute with her partner or her husband or her boyfriend, and before you know it, she's beaten him or she's taken a knife and she's, shortly death has occurred. And this
Hmm.
is becoming very, very common in our country. It is something that is on the rise and it is very concerning. What would you say about that? Is that a thing that is affecting Kenya only, or is it a global phenomenon?
I think it's a global thing. The only thing that is maybe like the missing thing that is happening here is that many people do not express these things. You know, they will not go out of their way to really talk about them. And so what we have is a huge percentage of people who never really talk about the violence they've gone through. Uh, Maybe basically because of the stigma attached to it, or not wanting to feel like there's something wrong with you, or you are the least of everyone. So that's another part. So I know that in Kenya it's a huge issue, but I do believe this happens in every society. It happens in every society because along the way, somewhere along the way, everybody goes on this wrong path, and where we create sort of like a generational pattern where there is violence and violence, and that keeps on going. So we can't say that it's just one nation. It's literally everywhere. I'm
All
from
right. So
Zambia and
it
I've
is,
gone
it
through.
is a human trend.
Sorry.
It happens to all humans, basically. Okay. So one thing you said that is very interesting is that it happens. It happens. It's happening everywhere. And a while back, when we would talk about gender-based violence, it used to be more skewed such that it would be the men who are battering the women. But
Mm,
now it's actually both sexes. It's also children fighting their parents. So, I agree with you that it is something that is affecting everybody in various parts of the world. And that
yeah,
also the fact that we're in a pandemic is probably exacerbating the situation because there's generally a lot of stress in the environment, a lot
yeah,
of job losses, a lot of uh, lack of finances, and all these things are acting as triggers.
yes. I like the word that you use as triggers, because the problem we're finding is that people want to say, well, the pandemic has caused this. It's not the pandemic that has caused that. The pandemic has put us in a place where we feel pressurized, and now the things that we have been hiding so long inside of us, they're suddenly coming out. It's putting us in that position where we're able now to really see the things that are inside, because we can't say, oh, the pandemic made us do this, or the pandemic is increasing sexual abuse. No, the sexual abuse was already there. People already have these weaknesses and this stuff inside of you. It's already there. But yes, unfortunately, we are in this place where these things are happening and they're on the increase. Mm.
So one thing I found to be very interesting, and actually it's a very difficult concept to understand.
Yes.
The victims in when it comes to this kind of situations, rather than being supported, they get victimized. So for example, you find stories where, for example, a lady is caught up in a situation and rape happens. And then you find people asking, what was she wearing? Why was she going there at that time? Why is she meeting someone she doesn't know? Or you find, like what you talked about, a lot of people don't want to talk about their situation because when you tell people about some violence or some abuse that has happened to you, instead of receiving compassion and help, you receive blame, or people
Yeah.
start telling you how you contributed to the situation happening to you. So how come that is what happens in terms of the shame? Why is the shame felt by the victim? And then it seems that like the perpetrator seems to go scot-free. Sometimes, unfortunately, they're even celebrated by their own gender.
Yes.
Isn't that a very twisted sort of uh, situation?
That is very common, actually. I think this is the blanket that society has created. And that blanket has sort of created all these theories. Oh, the person was dressing this way, the person dressed this way, and all these things were happening, right? And that can be true. It can be true. Maybe, yeah, the person didn't dress properly. That's fine. But if we just focus on those things, then it creates this sort of a blind, like you put, it's like a blinder, so we can't really see the bigger picture of what's happening to that person. And I think these are just society things that people have created, but we need education. We need people to speak out about these things. We need to create safe places where people can actually express what has gone on, what has happened in their lives. Otherwise, those society theories will always be there. I think those things have been there for ages. People say the same things all the time. People are rejected by their own mothers, by their own families, because they feel like this person is lying, they've never been abused, or they caused it, they caused that thing to happen to them. But this prevents the society from helping the victim. It prevents
Actually,
us.
you're right. In fact, a lot of times you find the person who brings it out, especially if it's a family setup where there's abuse happening, that person is victimized and said, "Oh, because you said it, now the family is in a mess." It's like people prefer if that person had kept quiet, which is very,
Exactly.
very sad and very
Yeah.
unfortunate. But
Yeah.
let's get on to a little bit more of something personal.
Yes.
Um, this is something that has happened to you. Please tell us briefly about your story, like what
Yes.
happened to you and how you are, what happened to you and how you were able to deal with it.
Yeah. Definitely. I'm happy to do that. So, my life. Okay. So the things that happened to me, you would never even think that these things would happen in an African setting, right? But I found out that actually I was involved in a lot of pedophilia activities. I was taken to places where there was pedophilia rings, and there were sexual activities as a child, and even things that you wouldn't think like this is even possible. I went through loads of sexual abuse by many family members, uh, other people I didn't know, because sometimes we just lived. At times our parents were busy, so sometimes you'd live with your aunt, you would live with this relative and this friend, and so in those circumstances you find that a lot of sexual abuse happened. So I've really suffered from like really really deep sexual abuse, not only from like family members and friends, but also being in like a pedophilia ring, that is really extreme.
Yeah.
Also, in our country, we're taught about traditional practices. They give you these certain sexual practices that are kind of these things that really even change. It changes something about your body. So
What are you
they
talking about? Are you talking about FGM or, for example, or what?
not mutilation really, but it. I don't know how to call it. It's they give you these certain things that you need to do, this your private parts, so that you can have, I don't know, sexual satisfaction or whatever.
Okay.
So all these things are things that are being done towards a girl, and for me, it really changed my whole life. GBV reconstructed my whole life, because when we're born, right, God has a purpose for you and I, and he sets out a path, and he says Anne is gonna have this life, right? But when GBV happens to you, it's like you kind of come off that path, you completely derail, and you go
Yeah.
into this place where there's a lot of distraction. So you have distraction has been brought to you, and so you continue doing that distraction to yourself, because
Mm.
that's all you know now. You don't know anything else. So my life went from worse to worse, trauma after trauma, wrong people, wrong predicaments, just doing the wrong things. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's like God had to now bring me back onto the original path, completely filter out those things,
Mm.
change my whole life, and really start dealing with the trauma, what went wrong. So we have to ask what went wrong. But first of all, what went wrong in my ancestry? Then what went wrong with Ayanda? Then we deal with all of that step by step, and then we now reconstruct that life again to come back to normality. Because when you're in that place, you just have the worst low self-esteem. You don't believe that you deserve anything. Your passion is completely killed off. I didn't have any dreams about myself. I always thought, okay, even the things I used to dream about, I used to dream, it was destructive. You would dream like, I won't get married, I will never get married, or I will never have children. It's like that was my life. Like I even created that because I believe that nothing good should happen to me. Because why should it happen to me? So everything about you becomes totally tainted. Um, you even have perceived rejection. You believe that this person is going to reject me, so I reject them first. And that was my whole life. So when I see someone, this person will reject me, I leave. I
Exactly. And this is now even before the person has actually rejected you, you actually have already gone ahead to reject them. And so it's quite a vicious cycle. When I listen to you talking
Exactly.
about it, it's quite a vicious cycle. But, you know,
Hello.
one thing that I hear that is you're able to get out of it. And, but before we get to you getting out of it, I want to ask a question.
Hmm.
Like, did anybody notice in your life? And I'm not trying to blame the people around you or anything, but I'm just wondering is, as people who are involved with others, we are Africans and we're very communal and we live together.
Yeah.
We have extended family. Did anybody notice that Ayanda something was amiss? Or also is it something that you are able to sort of keep so private and nobody could
N-
actually see that it was happening?
Nobody noticed. Actually, the opposite happened. I went through a lot of criticism because it's like people, no one noticed. So I was very shut down. I didn't like people. I didn't like my family. I didn't like people because I felt like if I'm with people, they will hurt me, they will violate me. So I don't want to be with people. So my mom found it strange that I always used to spend time alone. I used to be quiet. I never used to really engage in family things. I was very shut down, and then I was escaping through my friends, escaping through fun. But I was criticized. People were like, "Oh, she's always with boys. Oh, she's always doing this, and she doesn't engage with family." Or it's like people didn't understand what was going on. So they just kind of criticized what they saw.
Okay,
So,
okay, I get that.
yeah,
So basically, people could not understand, and therefore people isolated you. And that tends to happen actually when people can't understand situations. Very few people are able to hang in there and try and figure things out. A lot of people just get on with their lives because also lives can be so busy and you just find that people have moved on and they have labeled you. They have said you're quiet, or they've said you like boys, or they said you're difficult to hang around, or they don't. So they
yeah,
label, and in the process of labeling you, also the situation continues now inside you. Maybe it's not that it's not happening; it's happening, but nobody is seeing, nobody is addressing. But
yes.
then I think there always comes a time when something happens and you're able to get out of it. What was that thing for you? Did you reach your end, or did something happen in your life that was a breakthrough? Because what was the thing that made it end so that healing
Okay,
can start?
yeah. So it wasn't really, it wasn't really like like this is it. It was just kind of like I think I think at 19 I got saved, but even that didn't really stop anything. I got saved and I went to different churches and everything, but nothing was really I was always on the search of I was like, there is something wrong with me. I knew there was something wrong with me, but I couldn't figure it out. Right. So I always used to pray, Lord, I need to find something. I need to find something. And so I somehow I came back. I was at the time I was in Africa. Then I came back here. I was visiting Africa. I came back here. I came back to the UK, and then I met my leader now, Alexander Kanyes, who owns the organization, and he was already dealing with these things. He was already doing sort of like a healing process for people who've been through trauma. And so I joined his organization. At the time, he was doing different things, conferences, churches. And so I joined that. And then he now set up like a concentrated process, like, okay, the people who are coming here are really damaged. The people who are coming here have these issues. We need godly solutions for them to get out. And for me, that's where it all changed. That's where it all started. I went through the whole process for years. I went through the whole process, and really, God had to deal with me layer by layer because you, as a person, are like an onion, right? And God has to keep on peeling you and peeling you and peeling you and finding things and really reaching to the core and finding out what is wrong. so that now you can come back to that place of a good construction. You are now created into a better person. So it's not that it's like now at this stage, I feel like, yes, I know myself. I'm at a better stage. I also know who I am and I know my purpose. And I think that's what's really important for people who've gone through GBV is come back to that place to know what is your purpose, because it was lost in all the violence, it was lost in all the abuse, and it was lost in all of these things. It affects women psychologically, their families, it affects them on every level, spirituality. So it's really about coming back to that place. And that's what happened to me.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing your personal story. And I'm so grateful that you are the people who one of the people who has been able to go through it, has found healing, and you're now able to help others in who are in the same situation. But before we get on so much ahead, I really want us to discuss religion and the way it has been viewed when it comes to matters to do with violence.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of times people are advised by church to continue remaining in these situations where there's violence happening, especially
Wow.
women, in the this thing of submission, like because you're married you have to submit, and whether you're being beaten left, right, and center, you just have to submit. Or there's just a way that religion twists these things that people have come to hate, and people have
Yeah.
come to actually, rather than run to church, rather than run to God when they are faced with these challenges, you find people, even when they get to the point where they're ready to see a therapist, they're like, yeah, but let it not be let it not be church based. I don't know whether
Hmm.
you come across such people that they just have had it with religion, and
Yeah.
now they want non-religious intervention.
Wow. I think that's really strange, but I think what's happening there is people mixing religion and tradition. Because I think what's happening is if you tell people, oh, don't say this or don't express yourself, I don't believe that's actually God's heart. Um, that's more of a traditional protocol. It's because tradition tells you, okay, we shouldn't speak out about these things, or we should respect our elders. It's the kind of these protocols that have been put traditionally, and that's what they're trying to bring now, and saying this is the way we do it even in church. So I don't believe that is the way, because in AKG, we help people express themselves. You must say what happened to you. And we must also spiritually find out what happened to you. Otherwise, if it's not expressed, we cannot heal it. It's not, you can't heal something you do not know about. And you cannot heal something you do not express. You have to express, and you have to kind of, because when you express, it's like now you get to understand things more. The word is your word. When your word comes out, that is able to process more into your mind. So I don't believe in those. I think those are also problems now in the sector of religion, and I think we shouldn't allow that. We need to create more places where people can actually talk about these things, because they are real. And sometimes even if people just talk about them without that kind of maybe religious obligation, or without the authority being involved, but just talk about it, and where someone else with experience can also give feedback. So I think that's more of this. That's where we should be focusing on. Mhm.
Yeah, and probably there have there has been some abuse even in churches. But you know what? We shouldn't throw the baby with the bathwater, because
Yes.
there are solutions. Actually, the solutions that work tend to be godly, because God is good, and unfortunately, he's gotten mixed up with a lot of bad things, and so sometimes he is viewed in the wrong way. But
Mm.
I agree that there's still a place for the church when it
Yes.
comes to healing. There's still a place for God, because what God wants is really for us to be healed and for us to be whole.
Mm.
And I'm already starting to hear a little bit about the kind of process that you use at your association, one of
Mm.
which is just communication and naming the situation. Because a lot of times when you're going through these things, you never even have the space to sit down, think, and name it. Like say,
Exactly.
this is what happened to me. I
Yeah.
was raped.
Mm-hmm.
I was hit. I was slapped. I was pinched. I was kicked. I was, you never even get to that
You never
place where
get
I
it.
can actually name. Or I was emotionally abused. I was ignored. I was put down. It's so important. I'm hearing you, Ayanda, that to
Yeah.
name it, to
Yes.
communicate. First of all, even not even to other people, to yourself, so
To
that you can know
yourself.
that I was abused. I was sexually abused as a child. I was
Mm-hmm.
physically abused as a child. I'm hearing that it is important to name the situation and
Absolutely.
to be, if English, sometimes English can be limiting. You can even use mother tongue or you can use Kiswahili, so that there is something that happens when you actually name a situation instead of
Mm-hmm.
being in denial and refusing to see it, refusing to
Exactly.
accept it. Yeah,
Exactly.
so that's one of the things I'm hearing, which is very good.
Yeah.
What other
Exactly.
things do you encourage other in your association so that the process of healing can be ignited?
Yes. So communication is very important. Being committed to the program is also very important because it's like it helps you to undo that thing where if someone who's gone through trauma cannot commit to anything, right? They don't have the nature to commit to anything because that structure was broken through abuse, right? So another thing is let's see how committed you are to the program. Let's see how you are committed to the steps of healing. So that's another healing too. That's another healing too. Being committed, communication, being able to communicate with God and having a good relationship with Him. We help people also build that. So it's like more some more discipleship there going on as well. Helping people really stand on their 2 feet, you know, and then also building their identity. You have to build that person's identity because they don't have one. They don't have one anymore, right? They're defined through that abuse, through that person that did something to them. That's what is defined. They are defined by that. So now it's like, okay, we need to show you who you truly are and what are you good at. Let's bring that out more. Let's bring out your passions. Let's bring out your potential. Let's help you do the things that you used to love before this happened. Yeah.
Wow, I really like that point, Ayanda, and I'm hearing you loudly and clearly because the thing is that in life, something bad can happen to you, something traumatic, but at the same time, there's usually a lot of good that also has happened and that is already inside of you. That's what I'm hearing. Like, um, you know, your passions, your strengths, your identity. And I
Mhm.
hear that basically when you go through this gender-based violence or these traumatic experiences, all that tends to be buried and all that your mind keeps replaying over and over again is the negative situation. And so
Yes.
you totally define yourself in that based on that one experience. But what I'm hearing you say is that there are other experiences. So I'm hearing you basically saying that there is a space for thinking, there is a
Mhm.
space for being intentional,
Yes.
there's a space for deciding. So,
Mhm.
like, yes, this happened to me, but guess what? I'm still good at this. I'm
Yes.
still so and so. I'm still skilled at this. So that it's like a way you're trying to negate the negative
Right.
and elevate the positive.
Positive. Yes.
So
Yes.
that's another tool that you use. Basically, you try and get the person to change their focus so that instead of
Yeah.
focusing on just what has happened to me that is so terrible, you're trying to shift them back into guess what? There's this other good stuff going on in my life.
Yes.
It's so
Yes.
interesting that as humans we are so focused on the negative. I don't
We
know.
are.
It's so much easier to
Yes.
to to dwell on the negative things. I mean, honestly.
Yeah. It's very easy to dwell on the negative, and I've suffered from negativity, just being negative 24/7. But yes, that's what we do. It's like identify your problem. Okay, this is my problem. This is what happened to me. I accept it. Let's heal from it. But also, this is the good about me. I can do this. So let's help you do it now. Let's help you step out and do that. So yeah, that's what you've described is exactly that. Hmm.
Wow, that is very amazing. And one thing I like about you, Ayanda, is that you are you're very well able to help in this because number one, you've gone through it. So it's something
Hmm.
you've gone through and gotten out of, but
Yeah.
also you've got education in terms of supporting you. So tell us a little bit about your educational background and how it has contributed positively towards this process of and how you became a life coach.
Yeah, so basically, I've done a law degree, and then after a few years, I felt God tell me that actually your passion and your real calling is in education to help kids who have learning disabilities but are undiagnosed. And what happened to them is that they also went through a lot of trauma. So through that trauma, they've developed learning disabilities. So my work is all kind of connected. So that's what my kind of education business is based on. So a few years I did my teaching qualifications, and then I did a master's in education. I think it's really helped me. Education has really helped me because whatever what I learned, even in my master's, I'm able to apply and I'm able to see different characters. I can tell, like, okay, this person learns this way or this person does these things this way because in your masters you get to study people. It's like how do people learn, how do people understand things. So that's it's been really helpful. And also being able to apply the law. Okay, this is how the law would work, or maybe we need certain people to come and work with us, social workers or whatever it is. We will need other people in authority to come and work with our organization. So it's good because it gives me like a wider picture about things. Being a life coach, really, I think, being a coach, it's out of experience. It's you should have experienced it, and you should have gained knowledge from that experience, and then that's how you become a life coach. So for me, it's my life. It's 10 years of experience. That's what's qualified me as a life coach. So I know the signs. I know if I see someone, I know what they've gone through. I can know what is holding them back. I know what limitations are on their lives. I can tell. I can tell, and I can advise accordingly because I've been there. I've been there.
I like that, Ayanda. I'm very, very pleased to hear about, what is inspiring you and what is pushing you. And you know what? You've talked about learning, and one thing that I find I've heard because I do talk to a lot of people about different situations.
Hmm.
One thing that people always wonder is how come some people remain in situations that they're getting abused for so long? Is it that their way of their style of learning is different? Because here you are, somebody has hit you once, then you forgive them. Someone has hit you twice,
Hmm.
thrice. Someone is about to kill you. Someone is now poured kerosene on you, and they luckily there was no matchbox, so they didn't light you up. But then that person is not leaving. And I'm not trying to victimize the person or anything, but what I'm asking Ayanda is it the style of learning that is different? Because why aren't we learning from experience to get
Hmm.
out?
Hmm.
Is it how we are communicating to this person that is wrong, like we're not getting to them, or what what would you say about that?
Okay, so
It
you're
happens
saying
a
about
lot.
why is that person staying in that kind of abuse?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I don't think it's got anything to do with learning personally. I think there could be many situations, many things that are happening to that person. Maybe they don't have a space to really talk about it. And then also sometimes, when someone has been traumatized, some people can easily get used. They get used to the trauma. They get used to the patterns. Like, this is what happens to me. And then because trauma really shuts us, trauma, what it does, it shuts us off from the world. And we begin to believe that this is what I deserve. So there are many people who can be in that place because they just believe this is my life, this is what happens to me, and there's nowhere else to go. There can be many things that are surrounding that person. So it's like, what can we do as a society to bring these people out of those shadows, out of those shadows, pulling them out and actually helping them realize, like, what's happening to you is not right, it's wrong. So yeah, it could
Okay.
be, it's very circumstantial, I think.
Yeah, it's very, and you're right. Sometimes you get used to it and you
Mm,
look for ways of dealing that are
yeah,
also unhealthy, but they are working. So it's like you have a
yeah,
coping mechanism, whatever. So I like
exactly.
that because it
Yeah,
is it is also good to know that that happens. People learn to cope with it and they think that that's how their life is meant to be and they just accept it. Another
yeah.
thing is, I'm happy to hear that you're a lawyer. Do you think the law is helping in this situation? Because what are the kind of what is the retribution for sexual abuse?
Um,
I mean, what is the consequence? Because I feel like the perpetrators they get away with it in a way.
yeah. Yes, that's possible. Okay, but just to clarify, I studied law, but I'm not a lawyer in profession. Um,
Okay.
but I think the only thing that's there is kind of like, I'm not sure about Kenya, the setup about with authorities, but there is, there's authorities and call the police. But for me, I always think of, let's have helplines. Let's have other other resources that are sort of not always like just the authority, just the police, or just the government.
Not
But
legalistic ones, more
sorry,
social, not legalistic avenues only, but
yes,
more social and more communal avenues
that's
to help.
absolutely, that's what I think. Is like, that's what we need more in society. In terms of people who are now actually doing this crime, for me, I always think, okay, the person who's doing that crime, it happened to them as well, right? It must have happened to them, because there's a saying that goes, hurt people hurt others. That's just the way our psychology works. Hurt people hurt others. If you've been through the same thing, you're going to do it to the next person. So I believe that, yes, we have, okay, send this person to prison, and maybe we don't have, um, and maybe that's the only option. I don't know, but what are we going to do to help the people who are doing the crime as well?
Yeah, and I like that you bring that up because unfortunately, it is true that the person committing the crime or doing the violence, they also have certain psychological issues they're dealing with. But I find that people never want to deal with that as well. They just want to blame them and
Mm-hmm.
not understand them and not help them. They just want them to, like, you did the wrong thing, you deserve to be punished. But I like what you say. They were hurt, and so
Mm-hmm.
they are hurting others. So
Mm-hmm.
they also need a space
Mm-hmm.
for healing.
Yeah, they need it.
And that
They
is
need
something,
space.
yeah, that is something as a community we need to be aware of because um, otherwise you find that the healing will not happen because if this person who is committing the violence is not dealt with, they will basically now commit it to another person.
Absolutely.
Maybe when I leave, another person checks in, they do the same. So ideally, the way to solve the problem is actually to help the perpetrator so that
Yes.
the instances can reduce. But a lot of
Yes.
times, unfortunately, the perpetrators, nobody even has a ear to hear them.
No one has any space to listen to them, and that's the error. That's the error we are facing in society, because in society, people fuel a lot of bitterness. So they'll keep on saying, "Oh, this person should be imprisoned. This person." So even the victim, everybody will be filled with a lot of bitterness, and so we have all these theories that actually do not help us overcome anything. Because if I don't deal with the person who did the crime, that will continue happening, continue happening. We need solutions for both the victim and the perpetrator because they have actually faced the same things. It's actually the same things, unfortunately.
It's
Yeah.
the same thing. Maybe at different levels. Maybe for
Yes.
the person doing it, it happened earlier. And then the
Maybe.
person
Yes.
being done to now, they're going to do it now later. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
So
So
it's
we
it's a
really,
cycle.
I get what you mean. That's true. So tell us a little bit more about your organization. How can
Mhm.
somebody reach out to you if
Well,
they
uh,
if they want to come to you?
uh-huh. Yeah, sure. So you can reach out to me on Facebook. We're called AKG Global Missions. Okay. So you will find all our contacts there. We are on Twitter as well, AKG Global Missions. We are on Instagram, AKG Global Missions. My name on Instagram is Ayanda's World. So you can reach out to us. Our numbers are there, and you can also visit our center. You can visit our center in Kenya if you're in Kenya. So yeah, and you can have a chat with us, and we'll see what we can do for you.
Where is your center located?
We are in, I think they call it Gong Karen. I think,
Okay, current area.
yeah,
But
yeah,
once you get to social media, you can be able to get more information about where the exact location is.
absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about the kind of costs that are required, not even just cost in terms of money, but one thing that I've come to realize is that healing from trauma, you talked about commitment. It
Mm,
requires a high level of commitment
absolutely.
in terms of just showing up, understanding that it's a long process.
Mm-hmm.
Is it something that is out of reach for too many people because it takes very long, it's expensive, or how do you finance your your activities? Are you funded, or does somebody have to pay for them?
Okay, so yeah, more on a personal level, yes, you must be committed to the process of healing because it takes a bit of time. Um, it really does help for you to move from your environment, the environment you've always been used to, and to come into a place where you're committed daily and you are doing certain things to help you overcome. So commitment is huge, huge, huge for us. I think in terms of financial kind of commitments, is we look at people's situations, and mostly it has been most people, I know people cannot afford a lot, so there's been scholarships, we've been able to give some scholarships, but also we do need funding as an organization because many people come and they have nothing, and that this person needs a lot of help. So we need funding in terms of having more houses, especially in Kenya, providing more resources for them to engage with. Um, so we are looking into that. We are looking into that. But at the moment, the people who have been coming to us, they've just kind of been paying what they've been able to pay, and us just kind of negotiating with them and saying, okay, we can give you a scholarship, so you pay this amount, and we're gonna do this for you and do this for you. So most people have been funding themselves, but as an organization, and then we also had other partners, just people who partnered with us and who have been given to the organization, but we need more partners. We need partners who can sponsor people who are going through these things, and we need funding from everywhere because there is so much to do. There is so much to do.
I hear you, and I agree with you totally. And when I hear you talking about a scholarship, I wonder, is it a curriculum you take people through,
Mm.
or is it like do you have to live to come and live in the house, do or does it matter depending on the severity of the situation?
I think it also, I think Okay, every every case we've had has been quite severe. So not everyone has been able to kind of move from their house and come and stay with us in our centers. Um, some people have just been able to join us online because that's what they can do. They have work, they have other things, so they join us online to do the course. Yes, we have a curriculum. There's a curriculum right now. We have three or four phases per year. So they're going through the first phase right now, and that's really the first phase is about realizing what you've gone through. So we call it self-awareness. Okay. Um, so some people have literally moved countries and they've come to be in our center. So it's different. It's different things. It's circumstantial. It's circumstantial, and also um, as you as you are committed, as you commit more, then we say, okay, I think for us to go a little bit deeper, you may need to come and stay for a little bit here, or you may need to come and do this. So we advise as you go along. Yeah.
All right. Wow. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure having you with us. And we are so grateful that you are doing your part to make
Yeah.
the world a better place when it comes to trauma and healing from trauma, be it gender based or even be it childhood based trauma. It's interesting to note that you work with children who have learning disabilities because sometimes the trauma they go through when they're little is what results in the disabilities. Sometimes they are born with the disabilities and the lack of understanding makes
Yes.
them be traumatized. So I
Yes.
think that it is quite a wholesome solution, and
Yeah.
it is definitely something that is needed in this
Yeah.
time. In this time, it is very necessary, and we are
Yeah.
so grateful. So I want to invite you to give a parting shot to our audience, and then we can be able to wrap up the show.
Okay. So thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Anne. You've been so great. So guys, if you want to follow us, please come and check it out. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and follow us and see the program. You will be able to see pictures, videos, everything we've been doing in Kenya, and so much more. We're here for quite a while now. We don't know what the situation is going to be with COVID, but we have so much work to do here in Kenya, and we are excited. And I hope to see you guys on those pages and engaging, contacting. Thank you so much, GBS TV. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we do wish that if you need these services, please feel free to reach out. Always take
Ah,
that first step and just reach out. And you never know where you find yourself shortly just because you took that first step. And yeah, it doesn't matter what gender you are, gender based violence happens to both genders. So this is not only for one gender, it is for
yeah.
all the people who may be going through it. Feel free to reach out to AKG Missions and to Ayanda. And also feel free to call a helpline. There are lots of helplines available. There are lots of resources online. So feel free to take that first step and accept the situation and deal with it so that you can start on the journey of healing. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been such a
Thank
great
you.
pleasure. And
Thank you.
you're welcome, Ayanda, and all the best at your workplace. And we look forward to having you another time because this topic is very extensive. And
It
I hope
is.
that next time you come, you can be able to come with some of the people that have gone through it, like you have,
Absolutely.
to be able to give their experiences and encourage more people to come on board.
I would love to do that. That would be great.
All right. So, viewers, please subscribe to our channel, and the link is out. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you, and bye.
Bye.